Hello Stampers, thank you for joining me at stampityourself.com. Today's tutorial is this one here, and it is very pretty, isn't it? And it's using the birthday bloom set, this one here. Let me just zoom out a bit so you can see it a little bit clearer. It's using the birthday bloom set that is in the celebration catalogue, and this is available until the end of May. But don't forget you've got the other specials that are running as well. This little card has got a few techniques in it that I will guide you through. It's not complicated. Some of it's a little bit fiddly, but either way, it's still a very lovely little card. So thanks for joining me, and we will start to craft. Okay, the first thing we're going to be, the other thing that we're going to be using out of the celebration catalogue is the shiny Shine On designer series paper. It's actually 12 by 12, and it's this gorgeous. This has actually got raindrops, and I thought that this really, I like the way that it flows down and it actually adds to the little flower and give it some moisture. This is just one of the designs, but it's in the occasions catalogue, and it's really good quality. Like, it's so tough. You could actually, it's like cardstock, but it's actually designer series paper, so it's really lovely. I'm treasuring every moment of that. I might have to get some more of that before that disappears. Anyway, so you're going to want some of you're going to want the birthday blooms stamp set. You're going to want the Shine On shiny, I think it's called Shine On, but actually this is all on my blog, which is stampityourself.com, and you'll see the designer series paper in there. It's a brown stack, and it's Shine something or other. I can't remember, so sorry, but I will get that information for you so that you know what you're doing when you go to make it. But it does look really pretty, and it does shine. And it's possibly hard. Oh, it's not too hard to pick up here, the shine. Yeah, there you go. So it's got this gorgeous shine, which is like a silver foil in with it. So it's a very pretty card. And of course, coming up Mother's Day, this is a classic Mother's Day one that you could do. A happy birthday. You can change your sentiment here to anything you like, really. I've just got that here for you. It's entirely optional what you put there. It's also entirely optional what colour you do the rose. So I'll leave that up to you, but I'll show you how to do the rose. So let's get on with it. Stop me from yappering. Okay, so you will need as I suggested before, I have done a bit of prep work. You will need your cardstock, and that is landscape. It is 11 inches by 4 1/4, scored, which is down the middle, at 5 1/2. So that gives you your card. You need a mat, and I use the designer series paper as I suggested. The mat is size 5 1/4 in landscape, and 5 1/4 in landscape and 4 in portrait, and that's the mat. And on top of this, I've used some vellum for the flower. We're going to stamp the vellum with some stamp. We're going to create this image, and then we're going to cut the flower out and then pop it onto our design. So you'll need that. You'll need your your oval punch, which is there's only one. There's a large oval punch and there's a scallop oval punch. So the large oval punch is 1 3/4 by 2 I'm just reading it. There you go. It's that one. There you go. So you need your oval punch, and you also need your scallop punch, which is your large scallop punch here. So you can punch out your little sentiment and your scallop tag, and I've just used the designer series paper again just to stick it on. So I've already done that. I've also done the corners of my designer series paper with this punch, and I've used the little teardroppy sort of side so that it does, when you put your where's my card? When you put it together, you'll see here how I've punched the corners. I punched all 4 corners on the card, only because it just looks more uniform. But basically, I've punched the 4 corners with this particular punch, and I'm not sure what they actually call it. And I know that it's is it in there? I think it's in the, yes, it's in the occasions catalogue as well. So was it in that one? I'm not sure. But anyway, it is available on the website, and it also is available on my website. If you go to punches and just click on the punches, it'll take you to the punches if you haven't already got that one. If you haven't already got one, it is a good one to have. Okay, so that being said, what we'll do is we'll get on to creating. So that's the stuff that you're going to need. You're going to need also a doily. So we need that as well. And I'll talk you through what we need here now. So we need just a scrap of paper, big enough for your image to be stamped on, and I'll stamp that on now. Now you can stamp it on with, let me see, I actually used pink pirouette to stamp on my piece with, and then I put embossing powder over the top of that colour, and it gave it a pink hue. So what I'll do is I'll do it exactly that same way, but you can use Versamark or colour of your choosing. Whatever colour rose you want, you can do the same technique with this as the colour of your preference. So for now, I'll just go back to the, oh, that's Blushing Bride. I want, look, that's Pink Pirouette. Actually, tell a lie, I used Rose Red, which is this one. So I did use the Rose Red to stamp it with, and I embossed it. So first thing we want to do is make sure, before you do any embossing, you should always run your prep bag over it, just to remove all the oils and any part that might actually interfere with the clear transference of your design and sticking down your embossing powder. This is called your embossing buddy, and you just need to go over your work surface like that before you actually stamp on it and before you put your embossing powder on. I do find it hard to talk and do two things at the same time. I am apologetic for that, but you will, as long as you see me doing what you've got to do, then you'll be fine. So stamp your rose up with your ink as juicy as possible, and then we're just going to stamp it down doesn't really matter because you are going to be cutting out, so you can put it any way you like. So I'm thinking about, make sure you can see what I'm doing. Yep, I've messed that bit up. That's all right, I've got a spare piece just here. Oh, dash. Okay, let me just do that again quickly. I accidentally looked up at the screen and touched my surface with the ink, so we're starting again. Okay, now I'll just give it another quick Rose Red. Quick dab. I am sorry, people, but I don't want to ruin that image for you. Where have I done it? There it is. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'll start that again. There shouldn't be anything wrong with the ink, but just to be sure, make sure it's still fresh. Okay, that's what happens when you touch or you're not looking at what you're doing. All right, so we'll just pop this one straight down, up and down. A bit of pressure. Beautiful. Okay, as you can see, if you wanted to, you could use that. Isn't it gorgeous? It's beautiful. Okay, so now I'm just going to pour over the top of it my white embossing powder. You can use any colour embossing powder, it doesn't really have to be. But if you want to have a pink hue, like I have actually got around my image here, you'll see up closely, if you look, it's got a little bit of a pink hue on it. You can see it probably better in person, but certainly there's a pink hue around on the white, not the colouring in, because that's what we're going to actually do as well, but the white is actually kind of a pink as opposed to a stark white. So doing it this way, it's quite interesting actually, because the back still looks like the original colour, which is the rose red, as you can see. Just flip the back of that off, and then when you turn it over, it's actually all the embossing powder has absorbed the colour. So it's kind of interesting contrast, which is something I want to play with later on. So basically what I'm doing now is just making sure that all of my embossing powder all the surplus is attached, and there's nothing on my image, so when I go to stamp it, it doesn't look blotchy or blurred or ugly or anything like that. You've got a nice clean, crisp image that's going to occur on your design. So I'll just put that away. Oh, sorry, I've gone out of focus. It's all right, we should pick it up in a minute. I'm not doing anything that you need to worry about just yet. I must have hit my camera. I do apologise. There we go. All right, so there's the embossed image. Well, it's not embossed yet. It's just been, it's funny how it's gone from that nice dark rose red colour, and you put the white embossing powder over it, and as you can see, it's got a bit of a hue. It's not stark white, but anyway, it doesn't matter. You will see when I emboss it now. Just put my embossing tool on the embossing, and you will see how it will maintain that hue. I'm just trying to find something to hold it up so you can see it with, so and not burn my fingers off at the same time. Let me see if I can do this. There we go. So you can see, yeah, you can see the red, but you can also see the part that we're embossing here. So hopefully you'll be able to. So you're probably not going to see it too clearly. There's only one way to really do it, to see it change colour. Let's have a darker piece underneath. So I can try that for you. It'll go glossy, and it goes glossy very quickly. Just a nice white gloss. You can see it picking up now. See how it's half done and half pink? It's half embossed. It's coming up nice. So I'm just going to emboss that off. And you're going to want your rose red ink again. Hope you can hear me. That's alright. I'm not saying anything that's insignificant. Nothing that can't wait. And did you know you can also emboss from the back, because the heat still works the same way. So if your paper's curling a bit, you can just flip it over and emboss it. Or if you've got a very delicate colour that you're worried about having it on too long. Okay, so that's pretty well done now. So I've embossed it. Now, you probably can't see it, but it's actually a little bit of a pink hue to it. You can see it there. So it's all nice and embossed. Nice technique, isn't it? I love embossing. And you can see how the embossing powder is so good. You can't even see that colour when you turn it over. That's amazing. Okay, so the next part that we are going to do is you're going to get your red rose ink, or you can use your markers, whatever you prefer. It doesn't really matter. And we're just going to go around marking, colouring in or texturing, putting a bit of colour into our rose. So just spread the colour around your rose. You can have it as dark or as light as you want. I think in the other one, this one's probably, the tint is probably a little bit deeper in this one, but it's entirely up to you. You can have deeper colours on some parts and lighter on the other. It doesn't really matter. So just go around and smudge it in. If you don't want to use a paintbrush, use your markers. They're just as effective. Every time you do it, I think it actually comes out differently. Let's see if I can bring this in a bit closer for you so that you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is just bringing in the colour into the flower itself so that it actually looks real, and it puts some dimension on into the flower, and it looks beautiful. It's a gorgeous flower. I love this flower. I've done a few different designs, and I'll be uploading another one shortly using this particular set, and I've just fallen in love with it. I just love this flower. It just looks gorgeous. The design is just so, I suppose, well, I don't even know what you would call it. You'd probably call it user-friendly. It's a very pretty design. You can use it for so many things. You can use it to make it look happy. You can make it for a sympathy card. It just depends, I suppose. But, oh, it does look gorgeous once it's done. And it's really nice when it's done this way. Okay. There's a couple of little flowers here. And I am trying to rush because I don't want to hold anybody up. But, you know, when you're doing this yourself, you know, have to be in a good place to do it, don't you? You don't want to rush it. Because it's art and it's supposed to be relaxing and stress-free. But as we know, not everything is that way. But it is nice when you actually sit down and take the time to actually produce such a nice piece of, you know, a nice handmade card with such a good, gorgeous quality finish, which has always been one of my particular preferences when I make something, that it has a quality finish. I'm very fussy with my finishes. But, you know, I'm not always good at it. Not always patient with it either. Okay, so you've got the 3 little rosebuds up there, and then you've sort of like, you've got the big one down here, and then you've got the little ones here on the sides. So basically we've got to get, you've got all the colour in. So I'll just turn that around so you can see it up close a bit more. There you go. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Now it does look a bit funny, I suppose, from that particular angle. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah. It's not quite finished, so you should never look at something until it's finished, as they say. And there's a reason for that. It's because you may not like it. Okay, make sure you've got a wet one handy so that you can, if you have got too much ink on your brush or whatever it is that you're using, you can take it off. I'm just going to grab my green marker, just so I can do my leaves. What's really nice about this is if you go over the leaves with the pen, and actually the actual pink and the green sort of blend in to give it a browny kind of hue, and it's kind of amazing because it makes it look like, it makes the actual stems on the flowers look even more realistic. So it's quite an interesting finish. So if you've got a marker, just do the leaves in a marker. You'll find that they might just change colour. But this is, what colour is this one that I'm using? This is Wild Wasby. So yeah, that's the colour I'm using for the leaves. You can use any colour for the leaves. Okay. I'm actually getting through it a lot quicker than I thought. But it is certainly worth the time allotted to it, because it does look gorgeous. The finished product looks beautiful. So if you've got markers and you want to use markers instead of a paintbrush and the ink, you can do it either way. It doesn't matter, it'll work. So don't be afraid to have a bit of an experiment. Now I'm just going to pick up my my rose red marker, or pink pirouette, or whatever it is that colour you're using with the marker, and just for the final touches, just go around and see if you can add any more depth to it. If you want to add any more depth to your actual flower, pick up some pieces where you may have left some off, just swirling around, changing colours. In some ways, you're putting on and taking off when it comes to using these kind of markers on your stamp. It comes off and it stays on and does all sorts of things when you just go over it. once it's dried. Okay, it's gorgeous. All right, so as you can see from that angle, it actually looks good. So obviously you can imagine what it looks like when it's finished. So there's the rose. Isn't it pretty? Beautiful. Okay, so let's cut it out, shall we? Okay, there's no rhyme or reason as to cutting this out. You can cut this out any way you want because it is going on the front of the card, and it's not going to be it's going to be your feature piece. So cutting it out as evenly as possible or as smoothly as possible is kind of paramount. I'll just put my ink away because I'm bound to stick my finger in it or something like that. Yeah, so you know, take your time to cut it properly. Unfortunately, I have to, because I'm on the camera, I don't want to hold you up. I need to kind of chop away at it a bit quicker, which is more quicker than I would like to do, but I will do it as quickly as possible so that you're not. But if you're doing it along with me, that's good, because you can either put this on mute and cut and shut me up, or you can listen to me gibber on. So you can see that the ink's dry. You might get a bit of ink on your hands. Well, I'm sure you will, but you know, it's neither here nor there. It always makes me feel nice and arty when I get ink all over my hands. I feel like I've been playing, like when you're a kid, when you were finger painting. I love getting it on my hands sometimes. It's a bit like when you get garlic on your fingers when you're cooking, you sort of feel like a chef. Well, I do anyway. I think, ooh, that smells good. It smells chefy. Which is another thing I do love doing, which is cooking. That's about all I like doing, crafting and cooking. Everything else is just awful. I'm very bad at it. Okay. So don't forget you can do this in any colour you want. These are just the colours that I've chosen. And I have got another one that I'm doing. I've done another 2 versions using this particular stamp set. And like I said, it's one of those stamp sets that I really feel, because there's some stamp sets that you would use always. Even as a demonstrator, we have to always be up with the current catalogue stamps. So we're constantly creating new designs and buying new stamps and stuff like that. So it can be a bit costly for us. But the point that I am trying to make is this. Even with us, once the stamps have gone out of production and they go off into retirement, as a demonstrator, they're not really any good for us to continue holding on with, because we can't really demonstrate them again because basically they're not available to people. So for us, it's really a question of just, you know, using them for a period of time and then recycling them and moving on to the next product. But that's what we choose to do as demonstrators, which I have no problem doing. But the other side of that is there's just some stamps, because you've always got family and friends that you've got to create for anyway. But there are some stamps that you just don't want to get rid of, because you've still got people that you'll make them for, as I just said. And I can tell you this one is going to be one that I would definitely keep, because you can stamp it straight on to your cardstock. You can do this with the vellum, which is probably the longest application you would use. But if you wanted a quick one, there is a quick one that I did, which is, where is it? You can have a look at this one if you like while I'm cutting this. That one was one that I did. Let me just pop it up for you so you can see it. There you go. Oh, Slippery Sam. Yes, I did this one again using the same flower, as you can see, bit of designer series paper. This little bobble thing comes in the set, and you can just do the background with that. And that's another example, and I'll upload the tutorial for that too, on how to use that stamp. So again, it's another way of using the stamp, and again, all the gorgeous detail comes out. It's such a well-etched stamp. But that's Stampin' Up too. They make sure that their red rubber, deep red rubber stamps are well etched, and that's what makes them so good, if you ask me. But yeah, so that's another design that you can probably look at doing if you wish. Like I said, you can just stamp straight on to the actual cardstock of your choice, and off you go. So, but I will upload the tutorial for that one too. That one's not going to be as long. Like I said, this is the longest technique, and cutting it out is a little bit of a drama. If you're not one for cutting things out, you can always do a big circle die. If you've got a big die, you can do the die around that. You can do a square die, oblong die, circle die, whatever die you want, or it may actually fit into a hole punch. I haven't actually tried it myself, but it may work. But in this instance, I'm just cutting out the actual flower. So there's quite a few ways, but you know, if you really want to use it quickly, it is still worth owning, because you can just stamp it directly onto the actual stamp set, and that's something that is a quick card. Doesn't take you long at all to do something like that. Guess what? I've nearly finished, guys. So you've been really good and patient, and I have tried to do it as quickly as possibly and not botch it. So it does look good on you. Yay, I finished it. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. That's another tutorial coming up, so stay tuned for it. Come back and check it out to see if I've got that one up. Hopefully tomorrow or the day after I'll have that one up. Okay, so just turn my scrap over. All right, so we've got the rose looking as gorgeous as she can. See how I said your hands get all artsy? It's the rose red, and behind it just the leaves. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be fine the way it is. And you know what? The person who receives it's going to love it. So, you know, don't panic. It'll be good. It'll be all good on the day. All right, so go back to my cardstock. We're going to be doing some placement now. So I think the next thing that we will place would be the doily. In this instance, I'm just going to fold the doily in half and use it. Now, I will just get your a sponge, if you like, and just get it off any excess that you've got on your stamp. If you haven't cleaned your stamp methodically like I do usually when I finish, you can just go around the doily a little bit, put a bit of red into it, give it a bit of a hue so that it just blends in with the actual design. Just pop it down here and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I just need a little bit of colour just onto the doily. Just makes it sort of blend in a bit more. It doesn't look that stark white that you can sometimes get with white on white. It is very crisp and it is very fresh, but it's sometimes nice to have a bit of a blend feeling happening. Okay, so get that out of the way. Okay, we want some dimensionals and we want some diamantes. Okay, now with the dimensionals, we'll use this one. Just use some dimensionals to pop up the back cardstock. I'll just zoom myself back out again. There we go. So we're doing the construction of the card now. We've done the basic design, and as I said, the hardest part is the colouring in and the cutting of the flower. But as you've seen, it's definitely worth every moment of it. So we're just doing the construction now. So make sure when you do cut your designer series paper that you're putting your placement correctly, which I often don't, which means that your card is actually opening like this. And you want your raindrops to actually be looking like they're falling down onto the rose that you've just gone ahead and cut. So we'll pop this on first. Not quite getting it straight. Okay. And we're going to put our doily just in alignment there. And what I did is I lined it right up with the edge of the brown cardstock because I didn't want any of it hanging over. Okay. I then got my Tombow, and just for the sake of clarity and making it neat, just put a bit of Tombow on top there just to stick that down. I also just went up on the sides and I just trimmed in between there the cardstock and trimmed the doily and made sure that it was as straight as the cardstock, so it just cuts off there and cuts off there so that it just looks neater. I might just get my a bit more colour on my cardstock, I think, for the rose to go on. Oh, we've nearly finished, which is great. Okay, so then we've got our rose and the placement of our rose. So when you're putting your rose on, you want your rose to look, well, I put it half and half on my other one. You can put it wherever you like, really. It's up to you, but I'm placing mine right here. So I just need to get some glue dots. And you might just want to put those glue dots strategically on a place that they're going to hold down your vellum. You won't see it through the vellum because you've got colour on it. So that always is a bonus, because it is very hard to stick vellum down. But this is one great way to use vellum. Even if it's got a bit of a pattern on it, you can still use it. It'll look good. You won't be able to see the dots through it at all. Or even if you wanted to use a little bit of tear and stick, or whatever it is that they call it. I call it double-sided tape, but yeah, it's probably got many names. I don't use that one at the moment. I still use the glue dots and another tape that I've had for a while, but it all works at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm thinking probably about there, sorry, let me just bring you in a bit closer. Okay, so I'm sort of thinking at the moment, I'll just turn that round for you to see. I'm sort of thinking it's pretty good to go about here, because I want to put my sentiment just underneath there, like that. And then that's my sentiment. Now again, you just need your little sponge with a bit of colour in it and just go around the edges, just slightly blend it in so it doesn't look that stark white colour. And some dimensionals to pop my sentiment on. Dimensionals on the back of this one as well. Okay, so I'm going to put this down here at the bottom for my sentiment, and I'll just do that now. I'd like to look at it when I'm doing it so I know where I'm putting it. Oh, lucky I didn't put it on that way because it was upside down. Okay, so I'm here for you. There we go. And last but not least, look at that. It's actually very pretty. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to do just a few dimensionals. I put a couple of dimensionals here. Sorry, not dimensionals, beg your pardon. What am I thinking? Rhinestone. Dimensionals. Silly girl. Okay, and I just put a few random spots where I just popped my rhinestones, because it does blend in really prettily with the Let me see. That looks good there. There you go. Okay. So basically, those rhinestones don't look too well placed. I want them a little bit further apart, I think, than that. There we go. Saved by the bell. Okay, well that's the card that we've just made. So as you can see, it probably takes you about 35 minutes because this is quite detailed in the way that you're doing it. This rose is a little bit darker than the other one. The other one I have done is lighter, but even so, let me just zoom back out so you can have a good look at them. And as I did say before, you can use any colour you would like for your rose. It doesn't have to be red, doesn't have to be blushing bright, it doesn't have to be pink. It can be blue. It's entirely up to you, but that's them. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I hope it wasn't too complex for you. Any questions, please give me a call, or, well, don't call me, but send me a message and I'll call you because you won't be able to call me, and I will get back to you. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you pop back later on because, as I said, I'll probably be uploading this one hopefully tomorrow, and this is another version using that same stamp set, and that's really fabulous because you've got so many options using that stamp set. The birthday blossoms. So there's so many variations and so many ways that you can use this set. It's really a fabulous set because you've got your sentiments as well. Even though I used a different sentiment here, your sentiments and your rose and your border, it's got quite a lot of versatility in it. It's a great stamp set to own, and it's certainly one that I won't be getting rid of very quickly. Even just for my friends and family. It makes a perfect birthday card. So as you can see, I've used the sentiment there for you, and it fits into that same punch, which is the circle punch, sorry, the oval punch and the scallop punch, bit of designer series paper, and you can see the little background stamp that I use, that little dotty thing there, and just popped it around. So again, I will upload the tutorial to do that tomorrow, so do pop back and have a look for that. In the meantime, thank you, as I said before, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Any questions, please do ask, and I look forward to putting another tutorial up that you will enjoy. Thanks for joining me. Ciao.